There we go. Sorry about that. Let me pull up everything that I want to talk about today with you all. Lots to go through today. This is Friday, the last day of our Tiny Habits series. And where else did I want to pull that up? There we go. Are we live? I believe we are. Make sure. There we go. Put that over there. Okay, we are all set here. So it's Friday, our last day of the Tiny Habits series. You guys are doing so amazing with Tiny Habits, and the feedback that's coming back in your emails, in the email series are fantastic. You guys are, there's so many yeses on your completion of whether or not you're doing your habits. It's so great. The folks over at Tiny Habits Academy are like, what are you guys doing? Everybody's doing them so well. They do a lot of these cohorts because, as you know, BJ Fogg is a researcher, he's a scientist. And so he takes data and all of his research is based on data, and you guys are all part of that data. Not individual as your names, but your yeses and nos go into percentages and things like that. And so with all that data, as you can imagine, people go through the program and some of them don't pay attention and some of them do the things and some of them don't. You guys are so engaged and committed to the process. It's getting noticed and they're saying, what's happening in this group, this week. And I'm saying, they're amazing. They're my people. So anyways, you guys are doing such a great job. And I just wanted to read you this one email. I've gotten so many amazing emails from you all, questions you have and things that you're struggling with, but also some really cool things that you guys are doing. So I just wanted to read you this one email. Oh, come on. Okay. One of you was saying, how you've been on a million diets, constantly struggle with your weight and keeping good habits. You're someone who always starts strong, right? 5 days a week, plant-based only. I'm going to clean out everything in my fridge, right? This is what we're all taught to do. Then after a few days or weeks, something happens and it stops and all of the weight comes back on. Think about how, many of you can relate to this, how frustrating that is, what a cycle this is. She says, I think that since my new tiny habits are already a part of my day and things will never be missed, it seems so doable and not much of a commitment or a change to my life. That is the key. These are some of these sort of theoretical concepts that I spend so much time teaching about because we are taught as consumers to just buy the next program, the next diet, the next thing. And that thing is going to be the thing that we're going to act upon ourselves that will make the difference. And in truth, we're doing it wrong. We don't know how to do it correctly. And that's what I'm so passionate about teaching you all. And things like tiny habits, learning how to design for consistency, learning how to work with the way that our brain naturally works and understand just enough of the neuroscience, as well as the more artful side, what I call the spirituality side, right? The neuroscience and the spirituality, when they come together, we start to make these shifts from the inside. That's where things become sustainable, doable. They become aligned with our lives. We're not trying to force it. We're not trying to white knuckle it through anything anymore. This is the stuff. This is the beautiful stuff that I love. You can see how excited I get. But even more importantly, she says, because one of hers was to leave her cell phone on her desk, on her nightstand or somewhere, so that she's not scrolling her phone at night or in the morning, right? Stopping her from doing and being the person that she wants to be. It seems like such a small thing. I'm going to leave my cell phone on the nightstand. Big deal, right? She says, leaving my cell phone on my dresser at night has changed my life, and my husband has joined this tiny habit. I love this. We both work nonstop, and this small change has helped us to sleep better at night, wake up more refreshed, and not immediately looking at our phones, emails, etc. A small change that has really affected our lives. Oh, this is so good. This is so good. It's a tiny change. It's just leaving your cell phone. If somebody outside of you would have said to do that, you would think it's too simple. It's too, we're taught that something that's too simplistic couldn't possibly have these huge benefits, right? We're taught wrong. So I love that. And this is you guys are committing to this and you're doing this. And I'm just here as your guide. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I am going to say a few things about wrapping up tiny habits today. But before I do that, you're starting to ask me about the shift. The shift starts January 15th. I'm going to say two things about the shift, and then we'll go back to tiny habits. The shift is an incredibly powerful, immersive program. It's a group program so that I can get, this content out to more of you, but it's a paradigm shift. It's a theoretical model in how to live your life differently. Not a diet and exercise program. Everything that you've been hearing me talk about for the last 7 weeks have all been paradigm shifts, theoretical ways to look at yourself and your life and your relationship to food differently. It's a mix of the practical, tactical things like behavior design training and tiny habits training and toolkit training for things that you can do, right? But it's also a different way of thinking, a different paradigm, a way to relate to your life differently. Now, here's what I want to say about this. Spoiler alert, the shift is $997 for 11 weeks, okay? So it's just under $100 a week for 11 weeks for this format. However, for this program, for this Healthy for the Holidays series, whether you're in my Facebook group or the Mighty Network, I will be giving 2 people a 50% scholarship come through the program. And here's the reason why I'm doing this. In each one of my shift rounds last year, there was someone who reached out to me and said, I so badly want to change my life in this way, and I just am unable to afford it. One woman in particular is sort of my muse for offering these scholarships because her transformation is so profound in every area of her life. Now, the icing on the cake for her is that she's roughly 5 pounds away from her goal weight. That is quite literally the icing on the cake for her. And some of you might be thinking, that's not icing on the cake, that's everything. But when I tell you that her transformation was so profound, when she reached out to me in January, she was suffering from excruciating anxiety. She would wake up every morning terrified, afraid to get out of bed. She has a trauma history. Some recent things that happened in her past were re-traumatizing her every morning. Depression, anxiety, barely able to lift her head off the pillow, afraid constantly. Her body was in fight or flight mode constantly. We talked about that, and I taught her about that in the beginning of the shift. And she just, please, Eliza, I really want to do this work, but I cannot afford it. And we worked something out together where it felt like a good exchange of energy. And here's the thing, the reason why I'm not giving full scholarships is because you are more committed to work that you are invested in. There's a lot of good research and study to show the outcome for people is considerably different when you have financial investment. So I don't give it away for free because it would not serve you. It would not serve you. So we came to an agreement on where things felt good financially. And all I asked her to do, I said, just show up and do the work. That's all I ask of you. Show up and do the work. I'm willing to do it for this discount, but please show up and do the work for yourself. And she did. She was my best student, never came on a call live, never responded to any emails, never showed up in the group as part of the community, because that's just not her personality. And the shift allows for whatever your personality is to do it your way. But she, without a doubt, had the biggest transformation. And I could hear, she would write me sort of individual DMs and tell me how she was doing along the course, and still does to this day. And it has completely shifted her entire state of being, her entire life. Her job situation changed, her housing situation changed, her financial situation changed, her weight changed, her relationship with her husband changed. Everything changed by showing up and doing this work. All she had to do was show up and do the work. She listened to the call. She couldn't be on the calls because she was working. She listened to every one of them. She listened to the modules. She just did the work. She showed up and did the work, and her transformation was out of this world. And so I have committed to Right now, I'm doing 2 scholarship spots for this next round. I've committed to, as the shift continues to grow and progress, to always running scholarship spots, because if you're one of those people who is just in a spot where I just am unable to invest financially, but I am so ready to invest in myself, I want to honor that. So I will explain. I get so passionate about this. I mean, her transformation was it warms my heart. I will tell you how to, I'm going to call it apply for one of those spots, but really it's kind of letting me know why you're so passionate and feel like you need one. I will tell you how to do that in the coming days. We're working on that right now, but I just did want to let you know that that will be coming, and I would be honored to usher in another group of people who really need this work, but just are unable to figure out a way to financially afford it. So that's what I wanted to say about that today. That is coming. Stay tuned. So let's wrap up Tiny Habits. Where are you guys? Where did I put you? There we are. I just want to make sure we're in the group here. Okay, let's wrap up Tiny Habits today. A few things I want to say, and I'm going to pull from BJ's book today. I mean, this is my Bible, one of my Bibles that we studied and studied and studied. Oh goodness, there goes my video. Sorry, that we studied and studied and studied, and I have all kinds of things to tell you all as we wrap up this. So first, today's going to be a little bit about troubleshooting and iterating and how you go forward with your tiny habits. So one of the things that he makes the distinction in, and I mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but I want to go into more of it. Trying to get yourself to do a habit because you think you should, I think I'm supposed to, versus something that you want to do or that you connect to from a vibrational standpoint is going to impact whether or not you are likely to create that habit. So for instance, in the book, he talks about someone who wants to have the habit of sort of eating more vegetables or something like that. And he makes a distinction, and I'll explain it in a different way, but it makes this distinction between, I think I'm supposed to eat more vegetables. And many of you do this as dieters, right? I'm not supposed to eat carbs. I'm supposed to eat more protein. I'm supposed to have more vegetables. I'm supposed to have more fat and less carbs. I'm supposed to have less fat and more carbs, whatever, right? We do this all the time. We take the external content and we put it internally and say, I'm supposed to do this. If any of that is happening with your habits, it's very unlikely that those will naturally cement into habits for you, unless you can connect to the piece of you that understands why you want to be doing it. In other words, if you can say, I genuinely have a desire to include more protein in my life. It's not easy for me and it's not my first choice, but I have the desire because it makes me feel full longer. It helps with satiety. It helps with muscle recovery, whatever. If you can connect to your why it's important to you, why you feel like you have a desire to do that, but it's just a little bit hard for you. In other words, you don't crave protein or it takes some effort for you to eat protein, then we can get beyond that barrier. But if you are trying to convince yourself that you should do something because someone else told you to, and you don't want to, or you don't have the desire to cement that habit, but you just think you should, like I should run 3 miles a day, but you hate running, but someone told you it's the best way to, I don't know, burn calories or something, or burn fat, I don't know what it is. And so you have taken that on and said, well, she said I should do this because that's the way to get to X, but that's not really aligned for you. It's not going to stick. It's not going to cement, because remember, what we're designing for here is that the brain and the body want to do things that make you feel good. If you hate running and you keep bumping up against that piece of you that doesn't like it, your brain is going to stop you from doing it. It doesn't feel good. So it's going to make you forget about it. It's going to make you have resistance to it. It's going to put up all kinds of blocks because you identify as, I hate running. I'm not a runner. But you keep trying to force yourself to do it. It's a waste of energy, a waste of time. And so I think so many of us bump up against this, right? We read this book, or we followed this influencer, or my best friend lost 80 pounds this way and she did it like this. And so we take all of this external context and we put it on ourselves when internally it doesn't align, or it doesn't feel good, or we don't identify as someone who wants or likes to do that. It's a waste of time, is what I'm telling you. Because when you are trying to do something that is not congruent with who your body thinks you are or wants to be, it does its own things to stop you, not even at a conscious level. If you, for instance, if you say, I want to run 3 miles, but your identity is, I hate running, I'm not a runner. Your identity is the place from which your body takes all of that information and says, am I going to do this thing or not? If you identify, I'm not a runner, I hate running, and your brain one day says, oh, that sounds like a good idea, I'm going to be a runner, I'm going to try running, I'm going to make myself do this, I'll create a tiny habit to run. From your identity is where your body creates all of the signs and signals and triggers and nervous system activation and all of that stuff. So from that identity of, I'm not a runner, it's going to throw up a roadblock. You don't have time. You don't like this. It's too cold. I forgot my shoes. You have 7 other excuses. I'm too hungry. It's going to throw up all kinds of unconscious roadblocks to you to get you to stop doing that, because that's the brain's job. The brain's job is to keep you in congruence with your identity. And so it's a waste of your time to try to make yourself do something you don't want. Now, that being said, if it's just hard for you, or if it's just, like I said about the protein, I really want to eat more protein, that it just doesn't come naturally to me, but you have a desire, you have an alignment, you have I believe this is good for me and I want to be somebody who does this, right? You can work with that. And that is where you start to go in with the discovery question. What's making this hard to do? How can I make this easier to do? How can I find my tiny habit and anchor it? Things like that, okay? So making a big distinction of, do I want to do this thing, or am I forcing myself to do it? That's one of the biggest questions you want to ask, okay? Another piece that I want to talk about is some of you have started, some of you in your habits, you have started to do the extra credit piece, right? And the extra credit, remember, is just, my tiny habit is this. And when I complete my tiny habit, I have completed it and I want to celebrate, right? Some of you have had some natural extra credit, desires for extra credit, which means, oh, I did my 2 push-ups, I actually want to do 5. I did my 3 squats, I actually want to do 10, whatever. How do I know when to grow a habit is the question that you're asking. And what I want to say is, there is a place, there is a balance that's unique for everybody that tells us when we're at kind of our comfort edge, that knife edge of comfort. So let's say if you have a push-up habit that you're creating, and it's 2 push-ups. If you did 5 push-ups, you would start to feel just a little uncomfortable, right? 8 would start to go, well, that's too much effort and might take too much time or whatever. 2 feels super easy and you're celebrating. 5 feels just a little bit at the edge of my comfort. What we want to do is start naturally moving towards the edge of our comfort zone, because what a lot of people do is they'll say, oh, I've got this habit, it's going in really well. I do the 2 push-ups every day. I'm going to do 15. I'm going to do 15. That's what I'm going to do, because I can do 15 push-ups, right? And again, we jump to it being too big and the brain will start to reject it. If you start to associate completing your habit now with the 15, it's too big, too much physical effort, too much routine, too much mental effort, right? All of that stuff. So we want to keep it small and start to expand out to our comfort edge. Where is your comfort edge? If I just add 3 more push-ups on here, does that feel like my comfort edge? And mind you, your tiny habit does not change. The minimum you have to do is still 2 push-ups. So you don't push it out to 5 for a while. Because as you're building it, there might be days where 5 feels like too much. You've got a phone call to make, you're sore from, yesterday and the day before doing whatever. Just 2 is all I have to do. And what that does is it reminds your brain, we've cemented this habit. No matter what, we're doing the 2 and we've completed that. If I feel like my extra credit, I'm going to push to the edge of my comfort zone, not beyond it, to the edge of my comfort zone. And I'm going to celebrate that I did that. Okay. So he has a couple of guidelines here for knowing how to adjust the difficulty of your habit. I just talked about this. Don't pressure yourself to do more than the tiniest version. If you just feel like 2, do 2 and congratulate. Okay. I'm talking the push-up habit here. You guys obviously change it for your habit. Don't restrict from going bigger if you want to do more, right? There's your extra credit. Let your motivation take you if you want. This is a good one. He says, if you do too much, make sure you celebrate extra hard, right? So if you do too much, if you decide, I'm going to do 15 push-ups today, and by the end, you're going, whoa, that was a lot of push-ups. Celebrate extra hard. You did it. Fantastic. Great job. Tomorrow, all you have to do is 2. Isn't that so exciting? You only have to do 2 tomorrow. You did it, right? So celebrate extra hard if you accidentally do too much. And then finally, he says, use emotional flags to help you find your edge. Frustration, pain, and especially avoidance. This is big. Frustration, pain, and especially avoidance are signs that something is going on with your habit. You've probably increased the difficulty too much too fast. On the flip side, if you find yourself becoming bored with your habit, you might need to ramp things up. So one of you had a previous habit of doing high intensity interval workouts. And she said, I was doing great for a few weeks, and then they changed the workouts and something shifted in her, frustration, avoidance, and she stopped going to do them all together. This is a perfect example of what happens in the brain when things become difficult for whatever reason. And it doesn't even have to be physical. It could be mental. Maybe she didn't know how to do one of the new things that they put into the routine. It could have been physical. Maybe the new things were too hard. It could have been any number of things, but what happened was there was frustration, there was avoidance. She started to kind of not go to the workouts, and then she stopped going altogether. So if you feel yourself having any kind of those pain points, frustration, pain, avoidance, take a look at your habit. Did you push too far? Remember, if there is avoidance to doing the habit, it's probably too big. Make it smaller. That's why we make it so tiny, because you could do it no matter what, right? Go back and look at those links in the chains. What is making this hard to do? Mental effort, physical effort, time, money, and routine. And see if you can make it even more tiny if you have any of those avoidance things coming up, okay? And then the last thing I want to talk about today, we have the tiny habit. So let's bring it all home, right? We know how a behavior happens. A behavior is when the culmination of motivation, ability, and prompt come together. No behavior happens without a prompt. And then there is the combination of motivation and ability, all right? So the prompt is what you have anchored your tiny habit to. After I prompt, right? I will tiny habit. The point of the tiny habit is to make it so that the ability is so easy, right? And the motivation is part of what I just talked to you about, is making sure that you really want to do this thing, okay? What's the bigger aspiration that you're looking for here? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What do you want to do? Motivation, ability come together once you have the prompt, okay? You've created your tiny habit. Just a quick troubleshooting. If you simply forgot to do the habit, remember, you can go back and rehearse. In a time where you have 5 minutes, rehearse going to the fridge, opening the door and taking out the milk, then close the door and leave. Rehearse going to the fridge, opening the door, taking out the milk, close the door and leave, okay? Rehearse your tiny habit 7 to 10 times to help that, and don't forget to celebrate, right? Open the fridge, take out the milk. I did it, great job, yay, high five, whatever, okay? 7 to 10 times, that helps to cement the habit to the anchor, Okay, so remember, you're doing it to the anchor. Go through your whole tiny habit recipe. After I anchor, right? Tiny habit celebration, right? 7 to 10 times if you just forgot. If it's too difficult, try to make your tiny habit even tinier. If it's too difficult, right? It's too hard. It takes too much time. It takes too much mental effort, physical effort, whatever. Try to see if you can make it even smaller. Some of you started with things like 3-minute bike rides or 15 minutes looking at your resume, or these things are too big, too difficult. Try to make it super, super tiny. One of you did that, and you had that's one example I just gave you was she had to open her laptop and spend 15 minutes on her resume, and it wasn't cementing. I said, make it really, really tiny, as in you just open your laptop and open your resume. That's it. Open your laptop and open your resume. And she wrote me and said, that was it. And I did do that tiny habit when the brain was saying that 15 minutes is too hard. It's too much mental effort to think about what I want to do on my resume, but just opening it up changed it. So if it's too hard, make it tinier, smaller than you think, okay? If you keep forgetting, if it's just not cementing at all, and you keep forgetting, and you tried rehearsal and it's really tiny, you might need to anchor it to a different prompt, a prompt that is more prominent, okay? Try anchoring to a different prompt for your habit. And then finally, the last thing on troubleshooting, as I talked about, if you don't actually want to do the habit, if you don't see why it fits into the broader picture of your aspiration or your life, drop it. Find a new habit. Forcing yourself to do it is a waste of time, and it's not going to end up cementing for you. Okay, I hope this Tiny Habits Week was helpful. I'm looking to see if you guys have any questions on here. I hope this Tiny Habits Week was helpful for you. I know many of you wrote and said, I'm really sad to see this weekend. It was so fun. Me too. I had so much fun coaching you guys through Tiny Habits. You can continue to send me your questions on Tiny Habits, how you're feeling about them. We'll keep, I should say, don't stop doing them now just because we're done coaching them for the week. You guys have a lot of information. There's 10 videos here for you starting last week and this whole week on tiny habits, how to iterate them, what's happening if you're having trouble doing them, different ways to think about them, how to create them, why do we do them? All of that is here for you. So go back and revisit the material. Don't just stop doing your tiny habits now. I want them to grow. I want you to create more habits. I want you to find ways to cement all these things that you want in your life. So don't stop doing them just because we're done with the coaching this week. Okay. We will pick up next week. I have dropped the shift wait list in the comments for you. So if you're not on the wait list, I suggest getting on there because I'm going to open the doors to the wait list a full week to 10 days before I tell anybody that the doors are open. So get on that wait list. There's a couple of bonuses in there for you. I will also give you guys more information probably next week about how you can let me know if you really want one of those spots for a scholarship. Okay. Have a great weekend, everyone. I will see you next week.